Eris is correct, but I gotta keep it a $1.50 with y'all. Even though I understand that Shadowkeep was the start of Destiny 2's Light and Darkness Saga, my experience with the campaign has left me disappointed thus far. There are a variety of factors that have compounded onto each other that make this experience worse for me as a new player. But the real issue is something that has always existed since this expansion came out. Or rather, I should say, not existed, as the issue is primarily a content one. I officially started Shadowkeep in the Drifting Mind episode, so check that out if you wish to know about my reaction to the introduction and first story mission. Right now, I am on step 3 of 19 and am required to complete the Essence of Despair quest. Navigating the menus in order to find this quest took me longer than it should have, but I'll chalk that up to me streaming for the first time. You can just subscribe to the channel to be notified whenever I go live, by the way. Within the Shadowkeep quest, these additional Essence subquests act as the hot new gimmick at play. By completing them, we make progress in the main quest not by just continuing towards the next step, but by also receiving a special piece of gear. There is also a special line of dialogue written to us by Eris Morn about the topic of whatever essence we plan on clearing. These are nice additions that help flesh out her character. These quests are also not like the traditional campaign missions. Instead, it requires us to cleanse the essence itself. In the case of the Essence of Despair, we have to collect resources, loot chests, and complete patrols, public events, or lost sectors. That's right, in order to progress at the main questline, we have to waste our time by completing the planet's daily activities. I traveled on over to Sorrow's Harbor and jumped on over towards the entrance of the Scarlet Keep. Some high ritual activities are going on, and this eventually drags me into the repeatable Altars of Sorrow public event. This seems pretty similar to the Blindwell public event from the Dreaming City. There are a couple of rounds of waves where we have to stop a certain mini-boss nightmare creature from reaching one of the altars. After a couple of rounds, the final wave tier begins. The mechanics don't seem to change. Instead, Nightmare of Zydron, Gatelord, spawns and acts as the boss of this activity. I didn't have to waste any time in completing any of the waves and started fighting Zydron almost instantly. However, at the end of it all, this was just a public event, so it was a relatively stress-free experience. I could have just completed more waves against the Hive here, but I found that kind of boring, so I decided to check out some more of the planet instead. I wanted to locate the nearest lost sector, but instead I found this small cave opening with a locked chest. Being a pro gamer, I obviously knew that it wouldn't be locked without a way to access it close by, as the game would most likely just tell us that we need a specific item in that instance. I searched the shadows real quick, but after backing up, I noticed some sort of seal stuck in the ceiling. Shooting it does nothing except spawn in a specially named Hive Knight called a Wolfkeeper. Killing it also does not seem to open the chest. I noticed that the seal is respawn and break it again to re-trigger the loop. I turn my camera and notice that multiple seals are in the room. I shoot at them all willy-nilly, which accomplishes nothing. I look outside the room for a code, but think that the code is most likely in the room itself. Thankfully, a chatter saved me a couple more seconds of mucking around by suggesting that I take a closer look at the chest. Doing so reveals 3 symbols, and the order in which I need to hit them. I noticed these symbols on the chest, but didn't think about them any further outside of being Hive gobbledygook. I also didn't think that the solution to unsealing the chest would be on the chest itself, but the more you know. At least in the future, I'll know to look at the chest itself should I encounter another one of these types of, quote, puzzles, unquote. Now, it was time for the real challenge, locating the lost sector I was looking for. Part of the issue in finding it was on my end, but not being able to place a waypoint or map marker down really should not be an issue in the year 2024. I finally entered the K1 Revelation Lost Sector. Nothing too special goes down here, but I do make some general observations. I'm a big fan of bows, so I'm glad that the Hunter's Remembrance quest gave me a weapon I would actually use. The one thing about the Wish Ender that was putting me off though was its draw time. Each of its hits are super strong though, and since they can pierce through shield and have the Unbreakable Champion stun bonus, this trade-off wasn't too bad to work around. Especially since every enemy I hit with it basically went down in just a single shot. I was also talking about my general gameplay style with chat as I was asking for some tips and tricks. I don't tend to have the most passive playstyle, but early on I was taking a super passive approach, mainly due to my time playing Rainbow Six Siege, That's a game where simple mistakes like improper positioning can make you stare at cams for the next 3 minutes. The real issue, where this playstyle's negative influences creeped in, was in how I didn't really cycle my abilities all that effectively. In comparison to using just regular shots, they are much stronger. And not utilizing them whenever they are off cooldown limits my damage output drastically. See, these Lost Sector sections are pretty cool. Yeah, lie me, that is correct. These Lost Sector sections are indeed pretty cool. I'm a big fan of how they take a section of the map and give it some further detail. This not only gives us some mobs to take out, but more importantly, it gives us a nice section to explore, which helps expand upon the world that much more. I'm also a big fan of when you hit that like button. I was talking about how weird it was for the champion icon to just be floating in your status screen without ever being explained properly when I rediscovered the Guardian rank tab. I forgot that I never really talked about this, but even now when I'm looking at it, I don't really have anything to say. The first episode where I had my initial impressions of the game basically covered the tasks contained within the first 5 ranks that I progressed through. Eris reveals to us that in the depths of the Hellmount where her soul was shattered into pieces, she has been trying to pick them up, but some require replacing. She calls upon one of these pieces now, an ancient hive talisman, in order to harness the true power of the nightmare essence. Collecting further essences should reveal our path to the pyramid. With the combination of the talisman and essence of despair complete, Eris hands us a piece of Dreambane armor, which we will use to hunt the Nightmare of Omnigul. With this, we can now continue on with the campaign. Eris Morn starts off by letting us know her feelings on blind division and how it is a dangerous thing, a sentiment that I deeply share with Eris. However, when it came to Kuroda, Omnigul knew no other way. For his honor, Omnigul raised an army of Hive that tore apart Guardian after Guardian, leaving nothing but suffering in her wake. She then finally moves on to the reason we are here. The pyramid aims to use that past suffering against us in now and in the future, but we will not succumb to its ways. We enter inside, and after fighting a bunch of enemies, find out the way to the world's grave. It's here that the Nightmare of Omnigul, Will of Crota, attacks us. This fight is pretty brainless, so much so that I didn't know what my Phoenix type even did, and had the time to ask chat, all while not having to worry about my health. I returned to Eris. She learned of a dark power possessed by the Hive inside the Scarlet Keep, and we have to go investigate it. How perfectly vague. In any case, the next step launches to strike the Scarlet Keep. This is where some viewers from chat joined me. Don't worry, this was after I started to strike, and some random Guardian decided that this was their world's record-breaking speed attempt run. Very cool. Since I had access to chat, I also asked a few questions when it came to my armor and build since that naturally came up. There were a lot of intricacies that went over my head, especially since most of the mods seemed viable, it just depended on what you were trying to do. The helmet seemed to be an exception to this rule though. I just equipped it with the special and heavy ammo scout mods, which helped me acquire those types of ammo more consistently. I also rebalanced some of my keys in order to use my melee ability and melee attack separately whenever I needed to. I ran into this issue in a previous video, and some viewer also let me know in the comments, so shout out to them. Anyway, I had wasted enough of my viewers' time by just sitting in the menus and looking at my gear, so I decided to just begin the strike. There are a couple of enemies in the starting area, but the real attraction of this zone is looking at the framing of the Scarlet Spire. Once again, the overall map and level design is quite stunning to look at and traverse through. The style in which everything is presented just makes the experience that much smoother. Eris lets us know that the power radiating from the Scarlet Keep is something that she has never felt before. Eris supposes that a myriad of foul rituals are underway inside, and if we're lucky, we can use it to create more armor. This is where I get clarification on a game system. Our Ghost mod calls certain activities ritual activities, but these don't actually refer to the activities of the Hive, and instead the daily/weekly systems like Gambit, Crucible, Nightfalls, and the sort. I asked if there was any sort of reasoning for this, and besides being unique, and the fact that doing these activities on a time basis is sort of like a ritual, didn't get much further. That's a pretty solid theory, and if you have anything to contribute to that, feel free to let me know. Our Ghost asks Eris on why the Hive built a tower. This also lets us know that the Hive in general prefers underground strongholds for one reason or another. The Vanguard suspects that the tower is ceremonial in nature. Eris believes that its main purpose is to instead amplify Hive magic, which is how they were able to approach the pyramid. It is kinda weird to me that even though the building of the structure was monitored, there wasn't more of an effort in trying to figure out what was going on with it until now. Perhaps the resources of the Vanguard were stretched thin, and I'm just unaware of that fact. It's not like the Hive built this entire keep just for fun, or to waste some time, especially not when it's on the moon, making it exceptionally close to Earth. Nonetheless, we continue further in and just have to take out a few enemies. The hallway that leads outside is illuminated nicely as well. Our ghost spots a creature, and Eris lets us know that it's Hashladun, the daughter of Crota. The Vanguard presumed her dead after Crota's fall, but her appearance here is an auspicious signal for sure. Our goal is now to pursue her. A giant hole blocks our way, and in order to progress, we need to find void charges on the left and right sidebars before dunking them into the well in the middle. This lowers the drawbridge, which allows you to progress towards the base of the tower proper. We also get a nice view of the entire area that led up to here, and it really puts the distance we have covered into scale. Hashladun falls deeper into the keep. The next mechanic we need to clear is to capture all 3 of the altars. Once we're done with that, Eris contacts us. She asks if we feel it. A hatred as pure and potent as the sunshine soaking through our skin. This is purely rhetorical, but it does reinforce the idea of how heavy the feeling of her loathing really is. She also lets us know that even though the Hive have stumbled after Crota's death, new leadership was all but assured, as a part of the Hive's bitter logic is endless succession. This is the feeling so powerful that Eris supposes that even if we snuff the Hive one day, that singular notion that drives them is not so easily extinguished. Nothing too concrete was discussed, but it does fill in some gaps of the philosophy of the Hive, how they operated, and how they move together now. All of this is in the hopes of finding out what their current goal is. We move through a couple of well-lit hallways that transition into a cave system. We finally find ourselves at the base of the Scarlet Keep spire. We make our way into the center of the Tower of Woe. Hashladun has nowhere else to run. We must finish the hunt. I get on top of the elevator and begin the ascent. As Eris tells us about the potent energies gathering above us, our ghost actually realizes that Hashladun wasn't retreating. Instead, she was luring us into her trap. This mechanic for this section is to continue our journey to the top while killing the enemies that loiter around the side. The gimmick here is that the center area doesn't have much cover and is exposed to every angle. However, this section is fairly easy to get through at the base difficulty since the enemies don't deal much damage. We soon reach the top and can face off against Hashladun, daughter of Crota. But she does spawn in waves of enemies to distract us. She has 3 health bar tiers, and every time it drops, the wave she spawns in has stronger enemies than the rest. It is only by defeating the enemies in that stronger wave that Hashladun's shield breaks and we can damage her again. Upon her death, we not only make quest progress, but obtain a Tomb of Obscurity and a Trophy of Bravery. Eris is relieved to hear this, but we still need to understand why Hashladun was here. The tablet on Hashladun describes an item known as the cryptoglyph, but our ghost knows of no such thing. Our mission at the Scarlet Keep is over, and we are able to oversee the entire explorable moon location in the distance. Obviously, some of the models have been replaced by lower detail ones, but being able to witness the sight is epic, and helps reinforce exactly how far we have come. The next quest is to cleanse the essence of anguish. This is done by completing 3 daily bounties from Eris Morn. That's right, in order to make main quest progress, we need to do even more dailies. This is also where chat lets me know about Destiny Item Manager, or DIM. I don't have much to say about DIM just yet, as I haven't really used it, but being able to access your vault without having to go to orbit is such a crazy quality of life feature that I'm surprised it's not actually just in the game. Outside of that, like I said, I didn't really use it now, but in the future it will no doubt save me a bunch of time, which is nice. Check out the entire stream on my channel page if you care about how much time I wasted with chat when clearing out these bounties. After that, we return to Eris. She lets us know that the pyramid trembles under the weight of our progress. It doesn't literally, but it's nice to have our progress be reaffirmed. The more important part is that Eris knows about the spoils that Hashladun's death brought. The first is that we now know what the Hidden Swarm have been using to shield themselves and where it lies. We also have the cryptoglyph, which allows us to access the most powerful set of runes the Hive use that Eris knows about. However, in order to acquire it, we must delve in horrific depths first, the bottom of the Hellmouth. Before continuing on, I travel on over to the tower. This is where part of my discussion with the microtransaction store continues, and I find the Bright Dust section of the Eververse store. For some reason, they'll let me investigate exotic emote costs 3,250 Bright Dust, while the Essentialism exotic ornament for the Thorn only costs 1,250. I don't know why the costs are the way they are, but sure, whatever. The more important items for our Bright Dust are the shaders anyways, at least according to chat. The ones I had were fine, but it's good to expand my list. Speaking of, hidden within the store, you can buy the Year 1 shader bundle for 1,000 Glimmer. This just gives you a bunch of shaders, which, like I said, is nice to have. Also, for some reason, the max Glimmer cap is 500k, which I reach pretty easily, so I bought some raid banners from Petra. In fact, me hitting the Glimmer cap is why I even traveled to the tower, but I forgot about that as soon as I arrived. An occurrence which is more common than you might expect. With that housekeeping done, I can continue along the Shadowkeep campaign. We arrive at the Catacombs, a hell in which no light finds its way out. This location is spooky and is filled with hive gunk contaminating every single surface. Eris mostly vague posts about how scary this location is, but finally gets into some more detail. Apparently, it was within these depths that Crota and his brood defeated Eris and her entire fire team. Because of that encounter, Eris suffers from an unending bout of survivor's guilt. I soon stumble across some worms that are disgusting. It also makes me question the hive's origins. Perhaps these maggots are what transform other creatures into beings of the hive in the first place. We make our way out of the tunnels and face the pyramid. Just being near it causes our ghost's light to go haywire. We cross the bridge and the phantoms do nothing but hover around us. As we get closer and closer, the sheer size of the pyramid impresses me. I knew it was large, but I didn't realize how far away we were. In any case, we obtain the cryptoglyph and contact Eris in hopes that she will teleport us out. We aren't able to make contact with her, and all visible light snaps out of our reality. Our ghost tells us to run. This begins a set piece where all of the hive forces emerge and try to stop our escape. This action sequence is a classic, and it occurring while you're submerged in darkness makes the horror element really stand out. Nothing in this game is all that scary at a face level, but respecting respawning is on a story level, but more importantly, on a meta level. Nothing gets a player more motivated than them having to worry about the consequences they cannot ignore and will have to face. If anything, this section was just a little too short in my opinion, but that just speaks to its quality more than anything. We reach the Circle of Bones and contact Eris. She immediately apologizes and displays some worry that we might have passed as the darkness stopped her from contacting us. Alas, we succeeded, and thus must not waste time. With the cryptoglyph in hand, we can now bring it back to Eris. As we do, she fends off the phantoms haunting her. She can smell the stench of the Hellmouth on us, but it is a smell of progress. Only 3 more essences remain. I interact with the lectern by placing the cryptoglyph in it. It can now alter more cleansed essences in order to create more Dreambane armor. The lectern transforms the essence of anguish into a pair of boots. I edged the portal for a prolonged period of time before coming through it. This fast tracks us back into the moon's enduring abyss, right outside of the pyramid. More importantly, Ikora Ray has found the time to visit Eris Morn. We meet Ikora, and she looks at the pyramid, wondering how long it has been here, waiting for us to discover it. As Eris enters, Ikora can't help but express some sort of responsibility at her transformation. But Eris reminds Ikora that she insisted on visiting this place herself, and thus bears the responsibility. The next line is more interesting, because Eris says that they both know that Ikora isn't here to apologize. Since Eris has known Ikora for a longer period of time, she probably has a better read on Ikora's character than I do. Maybe Ikora really is trying to be as empathetic as she can towards Eris, or perhaps she was just maintaining formality. Either way, this bit of unclarity between them adds a lot more tension into their relationship. Ikora lets Eris know that she was right, and that the forces responsible for the collapse are coming back. I have the power of living after this expansion was released, and know that this is referring to the witness. That was one of the questions I had earlier, and it seems like the witness was also responsible for the destruction of humanity before the erection of the lost city. Eris's voice actor then gives an excellent performance as she fights back against her phantoms. We proceed to follow Eris, and Ikora stops us, letting us know to give her our full support in addition to the aid of the entire vanguard. Maybe Ikora really does care about Eris, and does feel sorry for what happened to her. Besides, Eris is not exactly in the most clear state of mind. She's quite literally being tormented by her demons, and that would certainly explain her cranky mood. The cutscene ends with Ikora staring at the pyramid with her back turned towards us as dramatic music plays us out. While the performances of Eris and Ikora were excellent, nothing really happened in this cutscene. Ikora and Eris meeting might be a larger deal to Destiny players than I know, but to me, outside of the voice acting, it was kind of flat. What exactly would the difference have been if Ikora just let Eris know this vague information over the ghost comms? Ikora didn't reveal the name of this big bad, or even what it could be, which means this isn't top secret information being shared. What exactly was the point of the phantoms tormenting Eris at this exact time, other than for us to get an epic performance? I just think that this cutscene should have either delivered more crucial information, expanded on the characters in much further detail, or showed us a brand new jaw-dropping visual, all in order to make more narrative progress by answering a question and setting up new ones. Technically, this cutscene did answer a question, but the answer was also a question in and of itself, which means nothing changed in the end. In order to make further quest progress, I need to defeat the 3 remaining nightmare bosses and collect their essences. The quests for each of them can be collected at the Lectern of Enchantment. This is where my chat informed me about something called the Tire Game. Before playing it, I walked inside of the gap in order to see the textures clip and I was not disappointed. Our Dagot starts the game for 100 Glimmer instead. I initially thought that the tire would just roll down by itself, but no, we need to push it. The goal of the game is to get each tire into one of the 6 craters, preferably the one in the middle. Slammy pushes the first tire, Dagot pushes the second. I get goaded into pushing the third. My tire rolls down the left side of the down ramp and launches itself into the air. The tire rolls around the rim of the smallest crater located in the center before settling in. The tire game ends with the perfect score, and I earned the triumph, no pressure, on my very first attempt. Of course, I asked the fated question of how hard could the tire game possibly have been. I know this statement will bite me later down the line one way or another. Funnily enough, a bunch of members in my chat didn't have this triumph, so let me know in the comments down below if you have this and how many attempts it took you to get a perfect score in the tire game. Our first nightmare hunt was Pride. Eris follows us in on the details of Skolas in her own unique way. From her perspective, everyone is consumed by their own worst trait, and for Skolas, it was his own hubris. Skolas wanted complete control over all houses of the Fallen, and in doing so, died. After that backstory info, we then fight a nightmare of Skolas. It goes down without much trouble, which is kind of an issue the first time around. I know we're super overpowered for this section, but I feel like the power levels should scale appropriately. But that's a rant for another day. While I remember, I wanted to mention that the whole memory gimmick of Shadowkeep is interesting, but it doesn't really go anywhere so far. Our past enemies come back in the form of their nightmare versions, and phantoms haunt Eris. So there's this whole theme of our past coming back. This also ties in Ikora's unknown force coming back as our enemy after all this time. But as someone who doesn't have that history, these enemies just feel like another run-of-the-mill boss enemy. And that feels like a missed opportunity to me. I should feel the fear and dread of these once great beings, but their presentation is fairly generic. None of the bosses even have any unique mechanics that would make me remember them as a new player. Nightmare isolation begins. Years ago, Taniks tore the Vanguard apart over a mere bounty. Andal Brask, was murdered in cold blood, and the Hunter Vanguard was left without a leader. Cade 6 ordered the end of Taniks, but the scars left would never fully heal. And that's all we get. Surely we should get some more detail about some epic foe that caused so much pain. Maybe we should experience that suffering firsthand through their mechanics at the very least. But no, it's just another dude. Fear is our third nightmare hunt. Vogot, the Untamed, was created to enact the will of evil upon all, because Crota's brood knew no bounds. Eris alludes to how, if it succeeded, we might not be standing here. In fact, Vogot is fear incarnate. Like, that sounds epic. In fact, why are we not playing through a memory level where we actually experience the events? Sure, it might be less exciting for veterans, but surely it's better than run into an arena and kill a boss. I just feel like if you're going to include the themes of fear and memory as a part of your expansion, there should be more of a cohesive union into its gameplay mechanics as well as the narrative ones. I was informed that these fights have difficulty options later, which is good for future me at the very least. A pop-up lets me know that I have obtained maximum seasonal currency. Epic. In order to continue progress with the Shadowkeep quest, I need to actually complete the Essence quests. One of them I did while doing these quests, so that was pretty easy. The other two just require me to kill 100 Hive on the moon and 100 Fallen on the moon. Also, not difficult. We obtained the final 3 pieces of Dreambane armor we need from the Lectern. After equipping them, I talked to Eris Morn. Hesitation is not one of the emotions that haunts her. She simply wishes to know what lies inside the pyramid. She reckons the object to a siren. I guess the alluring darkness of the pyramid is indeed similar to loud bellowing noise and flashing lights. As we approach the pyramid, Eris warns us to stay vigilant, but curious as to what lies ahead. Slammy demonstrates skating to me for several seconds before just dying. We follow the path provided to us by the pyramid and enter a location known as the Admittance. The journey into this place was pretty nice, and all of the triangular architecture made it kinda trippy. A voice greets us, letting us know that they've been waiting for us. I can already tell that the bad guy here is just gonna be the shadow version of us. We approach a glowing red silhouette. Getting near it transports us to an arena where we must fight the nightmare of Dominus Ghoul. This new location, along with the gimmicks, is kind of exactly what I was talking about earlier. My only problems are that it is far too short and far too easy. Like, that fight was barely a minute long, and it felt even shorter when experiencing it. Like, come on, let me play your game. Nightmare of the Fanatic is the second of these foes, and they are also not a problem. After each fight, the voice just tells us that the light sucks or something. It's pretty hard to convince me that's the case when I get to use space magic thanks to it. Nightmare of Crota, Son of Orcs, is the third red boss fight, and it's also a walk in the park. At the very least, I appreciate what they went for here much more than what I experienced earlier, even if every fight feels woefully incomplete. We are transported into a field of flowers where we meet the shadow version of ourselves, or at least they've taken the form of our guardian, and they claim to be our salvation. Also, is it just me, or is it so weird when our guardian actually talks? Our ghost has done all the hard work for us thus far, why change that now? Eris comes back into frame. She walks towards a gargantuan statue, and upon touching it, her green orb turns purple. It is clear that the statue can somehow influence the power of the light, and is perhaps the darkness itself. We talk to Eris, and she informs us that this force is our destruction instead. Truly a 300 IQ observation. This entire ordeal has been a manipulation from the very start. They know that we are here, and they know what we have found. Nice and vague. The artifact we recovered may be tainted, but it's too valuable to destroy. Eris will do her best to study it with the utmost care. Whatever she finds, we will be the first to know. With that, the Shadowkeep campaign has come to an end. I addressed my concerns along the way, and think I covered them pretty fairly. I did have a major gripe with how it ended, however, I was reminded that Destiny 2 is a live service title, and it handles content a bit differently. There is still an entire dungeon and raid that I have yet to get to, and still haven't. I'm recording this later than I wanted to, but that's because I had to do some stream setup. There's a good chance I'm streaming when you're watching this. If so, feel free to drop in. You can also check out the VODs on my channel page. Technically, Zavala and Ikora have some more to say on this matter, but it's nothing more than their general thoughts at this moment, which is basically just fluff. This isn't unappreciated, just not important enough of a minor detail to talk about. Ikora also gives us an exotic chess piece in Storm Dancer's Brace. We also can get a new light quest. I was on Dawnblade since I was told to take a look at Will of Radiance, and we were granted a bunch of fragments, an exotic quest, and the exotic weapon of the Sun Shot. I do feel like I've been given a disproportionate amount of ARC exotic items though. The Sunshot's case-hardened texture looks nice. Its straight sunburn makes the weapon fire explosive rounds and highlight targets that take damage from Sunshot. Nice. This is where, after talking with chat, I decided that I didn't have the time to do the raid, but could check out some other content. Shadow Throne was the active dungeon that week, and well, I just released my Shadow Throne video. Finding myself back at this place so soon was not within any sort of expectations. It was much easier with 2 other people to do all of the hard work this time around. Though, don't you worry, I experienced some certified warlock jump moments in the catwalks. It was. These fucks are so cringed. Oh my god. Thank you. So much. Yep. Oh. 2 in a row. Technically, this is death 80 and 81 for any of those that are still counting. Oh, and don't worry. I couldn't leave this place without experiencing death number 82. I'm gonna miss it. Oh, yeah. This is why I didn't attempt it in the video again, because I was like, I'm gonna fucking miss it. Something I was shown though were these hidden chests. How people manage to find stuff like this always blows my mind away. Anyway, if you remembered the petitioners, then well, here they are now. Remember Vorgath? No, me neither. At least I earned a triumph, a thorny predicament, for overcoming the Keepers without extinguishing more than one sigil. I found myself back at Cheer Ido. For some reason, I thought I looked behind the statue and didn't see anything, but I guess I just didn't look behind her. I should have missed like 30% of this dungeon. None of it would have really proved any level of difficulty though, except for the final boss. On my way there, I took this airlift up without thinking about it and almost missed another hidden chest. Luckily, Phoenix Eye forces me down, and I could find my way back to the bottom. This one required me to consume a tincture of Queen's Foil, but the previous chest provided one, so that wasn't an issue. I wasn't sure what to do exactly, and just took the blind faith walk, hoping I would just be on top of some invisible platforms. But all I found was death number 83. The magically appearing platforms make much more sense for a pathway though. I will let death number 84 speak for itself. Oh no. Oh my god, I'm so much better. Wow. They call me John Wick. Alright, we're also gonna ignore what just happened just now. We take a bunch of airlifts to the top of the Throne World. The fight against Dol and Karu, the Eternal Return, commenced. We needed to take down her giant guardian knights first. After that, we could deal damage to Dol and Karu. I thought I got one-shotted by her, but instead there appears to be some sort of mechanic with the finite thought, and how once that timer reaches 0, I just instantly die. I might have to deposit in the well in the middle, but I'm not sure about that. This was death 85 in any case. You may notice that I'm not going into much detail here because, well, with 2 other more experienced guardians, this fight was not even close to being a challenge. Doing this solo in the future though is going to be something to look out for. Videos will be releasing at a much faster pace from here on out. I just had to take care of a few things in order to optimize my workflow. I'll keep y'all updated in my community post. My channel will also display those scheduled live streams. Subscribing solves both of these conundrums. Liking this video instead will help me out substantially as well. Good night.